Hey, welcome to the Toadstead. Well, I had some questions about the bottom plow, or whatever you want to call it, and there it is on the machine. Used it today, and I'm sorry, I just couldn't get any video of it actually being in use, but I'll explain what I can. It's actually pretty simple. There it is on the back of the tractor, and it's just resting on the ground now, but of course it will go down further, and it ain't light, so it goes down just fine. Had to replace a pin, snap that pin off last time, so new pin, done, okay. Basically what happens is you lower this, and these two discs dig down into the ground and flip the grass over. That's really all there is to it. And then you just keep going. You run this side of the tractor, you make one run, and then you run these front and rear tires in the groove that you just made, and then you go along again, and the plow just keeps flipping it over until you get to where you're done. Now I'll just show you where I did. Okay, well, here's the spot just did maybe an hour ago, and you can see how wonderful straight my driving is. Using that machine, that implement, is a lot harder than it looks, and this is actually kind of straight compared to some of the others I did. And yeah, I threw one of these little doohickeys there, little lights, just so I don't accidentally drive one of the cars into this section, because that could get really, really ugly. Another thing to show you is that while you can see most of this is pretty decent topsoil, there was some spots where there was clay. I mean, literally just below the surface, a couple of inches, and we ran into a big spot of it. We were going to go all the way up to here. As you can see, we filled it back in and stopped in this location. Now, we'll try not to make you dizzy, but right in this whole area, we wanted to go ahead and do it, but we're getting a little close. That's where the septic tank is buried, and the leach line actually comes towards us here and then takes a corner right about where I'm standing. Now, we did go over the leach lines here, but they're very far in the ground. The tractor's not very heavy at all, as tractors go, and while you might think that that's fill from the septic tank, from the leach fields, it's not. The leach fields are actually right in this area. But just hit some clay, and it's a little vein of clay, because if you look here, and yeah, the buckwheat's doing great. You can actually see more of the clay, and you can actually see kind of like a divot where it goes like this, where the buckwheat right in this area isn't quite growing as good as the rest of it. And for those of you who asked me about how the buckwheat is doing, well, there you go. It's doing well. You can see the teff grass is also in there. Now we're discussing back and forth whether we're actually going to harvest this buckwheat, or if we're going to till it in once the bees have finished enjoying themselves with it. You can see how thick that teff grass is. That stuff is about 2 feet tall right there. So either way, when it comes time to disc this all in, that's going to add a lot of organic matter. Now you can see how we had a little tough time with the spreader because we ran out of seed right down here towards the end, down here by my little American chestnut tree, and just some of the native stuff is coming back, and we'll disc all that in. And there's also sunflowers in here. That was the mix we used. If you'd watched a previous video, we had decided to go ahead and plant the buckwheat and the teff grass for the organic matter, the buckwheat for the bees, and also organic matter, and the sunflower, well, just because we dig sunflowers. So we'll have a nice little field of those. But back to what we were doing. This is the this has just been plowed. It hasn't, nothing else has been done to it. Sorry about the bouncing. But I started here and just flipped everything over. Yeah, I go all the way down the end, turn around, come back, do it again, until I worked my way over to this side. And this was actually the last pass, again with my wonderful straight plowing. It's amazing how difficult that actually is. But I actually did a little better here than I did over there. I actually had to use the box blade to fix some screw-ups over there. But you know, once I run the disc in this, you can see these big clods, and you can see where the plow ripped in. These little gouges where the plow actually tore in. And you can see the hummocks of grass it just turned over. Now we'll leave this way for probably a week, and then we'll put the disc harrow on and we'll go 3 or 4 passes over that. I do not have a rototiller right now. I have access to a tiny one, which I really appreciate the person letting me use it, but we planted both the upper and lower gardens just using the rototiller, which is actually sitting right there. We took this rototiller all apart and cleaned it all up, got it all painted up. Now it's not perfect because somebody at some point backed into or sided into something, and you can see the little spaghetti thing right there where that's been bent up, and it looks like these tines are slightly out of line. I do get a little bit of a buildup right in between those 2 tines for some reason. It doesn't really affect everything, but you know, hey, this thing was in really rough shape when we got it, and we were fortunate enough to be able to use it at all. So doing all the repairs and stuff to it was really our pleasure. But that right now is the upper part of the Toadstead garden. It's been, I wouldn't say doubled in size with this, but when you stop to consider that where you can see those sunflowers and the poor leftover corn, we had a pretty good corn harvest. The cobs were a little shorter than I expected them to be, but we got lots of them. In fact, about 1/3 of the freezer is full of corn cobs right now, and we're just kind of letting the stragglers there, see if we're going to get anything out of them. But keep in mind, we didn't do really a whole lot of, except for putting out the chicken poo. Oh yeah, this is getting ready for something new. Those peas are done. These peas are pretty much almost done, and I'm pretty sure we planted those peas way too early in the season. Probably should be planting them right about now. In fact, I might plant some more. The variety of sunflowers, we're just having fun with them. The bees are having a blast with these, although we're seeing more bumblebees. In fact, if they'll stay there, a couple of bumblebees. They seem to be more interested in the honey. There's some honeybees up there. They're not going to come up in camera, but there's some honeybees up there too. And then this Asian long bean plant just decided to go and live. Yeah, it was in a cage, like that one's in a cage, but both of them just decided they wanted to go live right up here on this sunflower. In fact, if you look real close, that's actually the top of the Asian long bean plant, just enjoying itself, hanging around. And we've already taken some long beans off of here. You can see the empty stems, but there's still plenty more growing. There's a little bunch of them. There's a little bunch of them right there. They're still doing their thing. Our one cucumber plant over there doing its thing. We actually just did cucumber seedlings. They're going to be they're going to be in these rows here for the second planting. The peanuts are having a blast. going nuts. This is pretty much all we have for peanuts, though. We planted this much again down in the lower garden, and all the rabbits ate them. I'm going to do another video on that soon. But that's where we are with the garden. It just keeps getting bigger, and being able to use that tractor is definitely, oh, here comes the pole, is definitely allowing us to get more and more ground broken. That's a big deal for us. All right. Oh yeah, one side note, we did have to move all the trailers from over here and put them down there, because backing up to the trailers is almost impossible with a full-size SUV with the space we got left, and getting into that stuff with a Yukon, probably need the tractor to get it out. All right, thanks a lot for coming along for the ride. We'll see you next time around.